Healthcare is filled with careers that are really good, but almost nobody talks about them. And sometimes these careers that nobody talks about can be some of the best because of the fact that the ones that everybody talks about tend to get saturated. So here are some great healthcare related degrees where you can make six figures that you probably have never heard of. And if you enjoy this type of content, let me know by gently tapping that like button and commenting down below. And if you haven't done it already, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. And the best possible thing you can do is share this video with somebody else who needs it, because I don't have a giant marketing department like a lot of the big universities do. So the first one on this list is going to be a medical dosimetrist. And a medical dosimetrist is somebody who is a part of a radiation oncology team. And they basically use radiation oncology to promote some of the most lethal doses of radiation to the cancer, but not to the person. So they're trying to make the radiation as lethal as possible to the cancer itself, but they're trying to make it have the least amount of side effects to the person. So a radiation oncologist would prescribe the radiation treatment to a patient, and then a medical dosimetrist would create a plan to administer that treatment. And as a medical dosimetrist, you'd be spending a lot of time using three-dimensional imaging software. Now you can become a medical dosimetrist with about 5 to 6 years of education. The job outlook is really good, and you can expect to make about $147,000 a year. And by the way, if you're exploring different careers and you're not sure what career is best for you, I have a pretty simple 6-step guide that has helped a ton of different people that I've consulted with one-on-one or have helped in some of my paid products. It's a 6-step guide to finding your dream career, and I'm making it available completely free to you down in the description below. It probably will not be available for very long. And on top of that, you'll also receive exclusive content from my newsletter. So definitely check that out. Next on the list, number 2 is going to be a clinical informaticist. Now this is a career where you typically start off in the medical field. So for instance, you might be a nurse in the medical field for a while, and then you also add on top of that medical knowledge, some technology related skill. So you'd learn some things about IT infrastructure as well as data analytics, and you might become a clinical informaticist. And basically what they do is they help to design electronic health record systems that other nurses, for instance, would use. So it's not just nurses, but nurse informaticist is one example of this. And the reason you can't just have somebody from the outside who, is good at technology do this is because there are so many things that are specific to your career itself, and you are not going to be able to know how to design these different systems to make it easy on the nurse if you have not worked as a nurse. And they're basically trying to make the whole workflow process as seamless and easy as possible so that the nurses can be as effective as possible, and you can also give the patients the best possible care. And it's especially difficult to do this in healthcare because there's basically this problem where it's almost like you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. And the reason for that is because you want information in healthcare to be readily accessible between different healthcare professionals, but at the same time, that information has to be really well secured. You cannot have any data leaks of people's healthcare information. Now, as a nurse informaticist, you could expect to make about $119,000 a year, which is excellent. And this is one of those careers where you have two different skill sets that are incredibly valuable, and almost nobody else has that combination. Number 3 on the list is going to be cloud technology. Okay, so there is a ton of different careers within cloud technology. There's also a lot of healthcare related careers there. And I mentioned this before on my channel, but there was a recent Washington Post article that said that there are 1.7 million vacant cloud technology related jobs in the world right now. This is one of those skill sets that's incredibly valuable, and there's almost nobody there to fill it. More and more businesses in healthcare as well as outside of healthcare are storing their data on the cloud. And there are many advantages to storing your data on the cloud versus storing it in-house. But like I talked about before, there's special struggles in healthcare because that data really does have to be secured. Like, you cannot have anybody see the data that isn't supposed to see it. Now, as a cloud computing specialist, you can expect to make about $102,000 a year. And with all that demand, I would expect to see that figure go up in the near future. Next on the list is going to be a built environmental specialist. So every time you walk into a building, you're basically putting your life in the hands of the people who designed the building. Now, if they've done their jobs right and the building's been properly maintained, you have nothing to worry about. The walls are solid, the roof is supported, the floors are steady beneath you. There's no insects or vermin or mold. The air is going to be safe to breathe. And if a fire breaks out or some sort of natural disaster happens, there are going to be protocols in place to keep you safe.
The fire's shooting at us!
So all of this is basically the job of the built environmental specialist. They make sure that buildings are safe for people to be inside of them. And it doesn't take too long to get into this, usually about 4 to 6 years of higher education, and you can expect to make about $113,000 a year. The job outlook is also very good. Next on the list, number 5 is going to be a medical science liaison. Now this is actually a career that I briefly considered for a while. Now this is a specialized role where you're going to be a specialist within a specific field within healthcare. So it might be medical devices, biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, and a lot of the time it'll be even more specific than that. So for instance, you might be an expert on oncology medications within pharmaceuticals, and you establish and maintain relationships with physicians, and you basically update them on all of the happenings within that world. So if a new drug's coming out, you keep them updated on what the results of the trials are, etc. Now, typically medical science liaisons are people who were healthcare professionals for a certain period of time, and then they transitioned into becoming an MSL because they really have to know what they're talking about when it comes to whatever their specialty is, because you're going to be talking to the world-renowned experts on those things. And if an oncologist, for instance, has a sense that you don't know what you're talking about, they're not going to believe anything that you say. And as an MSL, you can expect to make about $149,000 a year. Number 6 on the list is going to be a nurse anesthetist. Now, a certified registered nurse anesthetist is an APRN, or advanced practice registered nurse. Typically, it's going to take about 7 years for you to become a nurse anesthetist. So this is one of those that you have to kind of be in it for the long haul. So usually you become a nurse practitioner first. So that's a master's level degree or a doctorate level degree if you get your DNP. And then on top of that, you would get additional training in order to become a certified nurse anesthetist. And you basically would provide anesthesia to patients in collaboration with doctors. Now, the job outlook is phenomenal, and nurse anesthetists can expect to make $202,000 a year. So they're basically making almost as much money as a medical doctor. So really good career for you to look into. Number 7 on the list is going to be a pharmaceutical scientist. And basically what you do is you discover, develop, test, and manufacture new medications. Now this is really cool because rainforests, animals within the ocean, all kinds of things like that have these secret medications inside of them that we have not discovered yet. We've discovered many of them and they've saved millions and millions of lives, but I would estimate we've only discovered maybe 10% of what's out there. And as a pharmaceutical scientist, you'd be testing these things, extracting chemicals, seeing if they help animals, and then seeing if they help human beings if they get to a certain part in the trial. And depending on your education, usually you can get into this with about 4 to 6 years of higher education. Now, the range for how much you're going to get paid is going to depend on whether you're like a medical doctor and what position you're in, but you can expect to make somewhere between $104,000 to $210,000 a year. Now, I have to say healthcare has hundreds and hundreds of these random careers that you may or may not have ever heard of. More than any other type of career, they have so many of these, and a lot of them are at like kind of the 2-year level, or the 4-year level, or 6-year, or 8 years. So you pretty much see a lot of really good careers at every level of education within healthcare. So it's definitely worth it for you to check this out. A website I really like is Explore Health Careers, and I believe it's explorehealthcareers.org. That is a website I used years ago, and it's a super good resource for you to look at all these different random niche health careers that you may not have ever heard about. Check out my other videos right here. I made them just for you. Go ahead, gently tap that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and comment down below any thoughts, comments, etc. that you have on the video, and I will see you next time.